Who is the 5th best SEC player of the Millennium? Hit me.
All right, number 5 right now, we got, and I already can hear the groan, so guys, relax, okay? It's Tyrann Mathieu.
I like it.
And I will say this. If you want to fault me, that's okay. As you'll see in this list, I think there's 3 that's a lock.
Yep.
And then I think there's a lot you can do at 4 and 5. So I chose to go with my heart a little bit, okay? I shared a locker room with this man. This is the single best football player I have ever met in my entire life. And it's not just the play, even though that was astounding. The rate at which he forced turnovers of 1 games, I've never seen anything like it, but his aura, his leadership. He was a sophomore, and everybody would shut up and listen when he talked. So that's a bit of a biased heart pick, but number 5, Tyrann Mathieu.
I love the fact that we got defense on this list, number 1. Number 2, and we talk about sports and we think about cultural moments. Like, there was a moment where everybody was trying to be Honey Badger, right? Like that. Like every kid wanted to be like Tyrann Mathieu, so I'm here for it.
Some players have gravity. He has that type of gravity.
Yes. No, I mean, again, aura is what I go back to. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It was unbelievable. Okay, number 4 on this list, and this pains me, but it is Derrick Henry. I mean, it's got to be, bruh. 2,000-yard season, the only SEC player to ever do it, Heisman Trophy, national champion. And when you're thinking about the Alabama dynasty, there's a lot of very high highs, but I don't know, not even Mark Ingram, not Devontae Smith. I don't know that there was ever a player that was as singular to his team as Derrick Henry was. And then who could forget that day when him and Leonard Fournette went toe-to-toe and Alabama just absolutely smashed. So Derrick Henry, number 4 on the list.
He's the best player I ever played against in college.
And he's a giant. He's also a giant. He's actually bigger than you two.
I know. I was on the field with the dude. He was humongous.
I don't know how many players struck the fear of God into their opponents like Derrick Henry did, but he's the top of my list.
When you think of Alabama running backs, he's who comes to mind, right?
Yes, that for me, absolutely. Again, Alabama's dynasty is a bit nameless, faceless in some ways. Henry is not. Let's get to number 3, and it's the Florida Gator, Tim Tebow. Tebow's film has aged a little funny. You watch it and you're like, it feels maybe like after watching like a year of Jaden Daniels, some of these guys recently, it maybe feels like a little slow, but at the time, it was revolutionary. National championships to his name, Heisman Trophy to his name, just a ton of wins, but really the intangibles, right? We all remember the Ole Miss speech and everything. You'll never see us do this. And what did he do? He followed through on it. Tim Tebow was without a doubt a legend. Tim Tebow, number 3 player of the Millennium.
Yeah, this one, I think the longevity to how many years he was playing at a really high level in college stands out to me. And I played for the guy who coached him, and he wouldn't shut up about some Tim Tebow. He would not shut up about Tim Tebow, so that's the impact right there.
In Columbus?
Dude. Oh, my God.
I know his film aged poorly, but if we're talking SEC players, he could be number 1 on the list. Seriously, he's that talented.
I was stunned that he wasn't number 1. So with that, we got to see who's number 2, who's number 1, because it's not Tim Tebow.
So, and remember, Tebow's the beginning of what I would consider the big 3, the locks, right? Number 2 on that list, another one of my guys, Joe Shiesty, Joey Burrow.
Interesting.
I mean, like 60 passing touchdowns, y'all.
I get it.
Like, what more needs to be said? 15-0, perfect season, national championship, Heisman Trophy, number 1 overall pick. Intangibles? I call him Captain America, because that year was like watching a Marvel movie. No matter how bad it looked for the hero, like you knew he was going to win. Joe Burrow, number 2 on the list.
This is a difficult one for me. I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. I was in the locker room with Joe Burrow once upon a time when I was an old dude and he was a real young dude. 1 year is crazy to be the number 2 player of the Millennium, because the year before that, it was like 18 touchdowns. I know it went up this 1 year, and based off of some of the careers that some of these guys had, it's only spent 2 years in the conference.
60 touchdowns.
I agree. But that 1 year was
it was phenomenal. I'm not taking away from it, but that's crazy. That is nuts.
It was special enough where I can't say that's a wrong pick there, you know?
Right. 60 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. It's unbelievable.
They're the conversation, one of the best teams of all time.
And, well, Joshua, if you didn't like that because of 1 year, I don't know how you're going to feel about this one, because number 1 with a bullet in my book. So Tyrann was the best player I ever shared a locker room with. This is the best player I've ever seen live in my entire life, and it's Cam Newton. How could it not be? How could it not be? Okay, T-Bob, why does he make it over Burrow? Why does he make it over Tebow? I've never seen a single play. It's a team game, or at least it's supposed to be. And Cam put that to the test as he dragged a roster where Nick Fairley was the only other NFL player, right? Tebow had Harvin, the Pouncey brothers. We all know about Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, Clyde, everybody. Cam Newton had himself, and he went perfect, undefeated, won the national championship. So Cam Newton, without a doubt, the #1 SEC player of the millennium.
I mean, it was Captain America versus Superman, right? And I feel like Superman's winning that one. And
True.
It goes back to the thing about Tyrann Mathieu, too. Everybody wanted to be like Cam, right? Like every kid playing ball was trying to be like Cam, so I'm there.
You know, when you're great, you elevate other people around you, and certainly everyone on this list did, but it was that much more apparent when you talk about the roster that he took. Absolutely, I don't know that anyone elevated the players around him like Cam.
And T-Bob, I want to get now to some of the players who did not make the cut because the SEC is so loaded. Numbers 6 through 10 could easily be 1 through 5. Johnny Manziel, first freshman to ever win the Heisman. Darren McFadden, twice he was second in Heisman voting. Tua, Ingram, Manning, and about 30 other guys you consider.
And again, this is where, and that's why I say maybe 4 and 5 are a bit interesting here, right? Like, I could see doing some Mark Ingram over Derrick Henry, maybe if you wanted. Certainly McFadden, like you said, in that conversation as well. Manziel, it's funny, I actually had the Manziel conversation earlier today, and what I landed on was like, if I'm scoring these guys so high on the intangibles, Manziel kind of gets like an F on the intangibles in some ways. It's like how good could he have been? How much meat was left on that bone? But still, great, one and all, right? We are discerning between greatness. We're not being hypercritical here, but I think it's a pretty solid top 5 here.